Marissa Graham, what's up?
Hello. Oh my God, you got your Oilers jersey on.
I figured I'd throw it on just for you,
I love that.
Remind you a bit of home while you're over in Sweden.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot different here than home. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness.
Yeah, of course. 7:30 a.m. It's snowing out. I'm like, oh, another layer doesn't hurt.
I know I felt bad. I always ask like people like, "Oh, what time do you start your day?" Because like I go to bed. I try and go to bed like a little bit earlier, and the time difference is so big. So I'm like, I try and schedule meetings or whatever when people first start their day at home. But
Hmm.
you're the earliest riser so far. Everyone's like, oh, probably like 9 or 10.
Yeah, yeah. I just finished doing a week of Mark Wahlberg style training, so I was up at 5. So 7:30 is nice. I got lots of time.
Oh my God, good for you.
Oh, you gotta get after it sometimes. That's interesting though. You've got an early bedtime that's unique for people our age, but it's so necessary, isn't it?
It's so necessary. Sleep is so important. I literally have an alarm that goes off on my phone every night at 9:30 p.m. saying like, get to bed.
Nice. Yeah, the new app or the new iOS gives you the bedtime ability to set it, and you just
Yeah.
that's your note. You say get to bed. You got to get that rest.
Oh, it's super important. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
how are things over there? How is Sweden? What's it like? What's the difference from good old Canada?
Oh my gosh. Like, are we talking like COVID or just like in general?
General. Huh?
In general, like the way of life here is much more relaxed. Like people aren't like stressed, they're not like high strung. I would say compared to people back home, they have a very good like work life balance, and they
Mm,
try and really like focus on maintaining that. I would say like people here are a lot more active, a lot more health focused. Like even the food here, I would say is a lot like healthier than back home. Like there's a lot less additives.
mm,
Because me being me, I read like all the ingredients on the back. Like the first time
mhm,
I went to the grocery store, I was there for like 3 hours because, like, first of all, the language barrier. I mean, everything's
mhm.
in Swedish, and I literally can't pick up on a single thing. So I have like my Google Translate app, which you can download and it actually works like offline. So I can just take pictures or like put my camera up to it, and it'll just like automatically translate it right then and there. So um, Google Translate has been my best friend. So as a general, yeah, I think they're like healthier, they're more active, they're a lot less stressed kind of people. Um, Whereas back home, I feel like almost it's a competition on like who's the busiest, who's got what going on, that kind of thing. It's a lot more urbanized and fast paced. So it's been an adjustment to kind of like take a step back from the used to being like such a fast paced life.
Mhm.
But I actually quite enjoy it. Like now taking a step back, you have time to enjoy the little things in life. Like I'll just take, because the team gives me a bike, so I'll just take my bike down to the water and literally just sit alone and just like enjoy being outdoors. And I would never do that at home or never take the time to do that. So that's been
Mm.
nice.
Interesting. That's so cool. Actually, that's good to know that they're supporting you getting that physical activity and give you a bike instead of a car. I love it. Uh,
Oh my
it's
God. Yeah.
it's crazy the amount of processed food and junk that we have over here in North America in comparison. It's
And I honestly
ridiculous. Yeah.
like I
Go
thought
ahead.
Canadians in general were pretty like health conscious, and I thought our food was like pretty decent quality. Till you experience a different country and a different culture, then you kind of realize, oh, maybe we don't have it completely figured out. Like,
Well, it's interesting because you're now going through your personal training, your strength and conditioning, and your nutritionist certificates, all of this while you're playing hockey. So you've got, both sides of the coin. You're doing the studying and the education side while you're still playing hockey. Have you learned a lot going through that and changed the way you approach your sport and athletics in general through this process?
honestly, yes, but my mom's also a nutrition consultant. So I had like a little bit of a
Mm,
head start on the importance of health and the importance of like well being when it comes to sports. I also like I experienced what it was like to kind of put that on the back burner. Like at Brock, we were so busy. Like me and my teammates counted one week and we were over 40 hours a week with hockey plus schooling on top of that. And I'm not gonna lie, I definitely let my health slip. Like I wasn't eating like terrible, but I was like grabbing whatever I could and wasn't able to like plan ahead because I was kind of like in go mode. And I also didn't do any supplementation at all at Brock because I was a little bit stubborn and I was like, oh, my body will get what it needs. Like I don't need any supplements or anything like that. Even though all along my mom was like, you should be taking this, you should be taking this. So
what are those things that she said you were supposed to be taking?
A lot of stuff. She would literally send me stuff in the mail and it would just sit in bottles on my shelf. Calcium, magnesium, MSM, collagen, vitamin C,
Okay.
lots of immunity boost supplements because, you know, being at school around a lot of people and plus your body's constantly on the go, you need to make sure immunity's up high. So yeah, I didn't take any of it. And then my body was just like breaking down. I was getting sick all the time. And I like didn't think I could play anymore also. So I took a year off after Brock because I was like, my body cannot do this anymore. And I was just like so sick. I had tons of like health issues, which is kind of weird because I always considered myself like a healthy person, but your body just needs the extra help, especially when you're going so hard as an athlete. So that's when I kind of started to really get into it. I was like, okay, how am I going to repair my body? Like I was like, every morning I would wake up and my knees would hurt or my ankles would hurt and it would be hard to like walk. And I'm like, I'm literally 24 years old. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, what's it going to be like when I'm like 50 something? So that's kind of what made me take a hold of like my own health and got really like invested in it and kind of piqued my interest, even though my mom had always been there. But yeah, so I just kind of started building myself from the ground up, started with supplementation and making sure I'm putting like whole natural foods into my body. I also did some allergy testing, found out I was like really allergic to like dairy and stuff. So
yeah, that'll do it.
That made a huge difference as well in how my body felt. And I knew I was allergic to gluten already, but I still would kind of like have it at the odd time because, you know, it's like pretty hard to avoid. But I completely took that out, which also made a huge difference. And so after like helping my body and seeing like the results, and I was like, wow, like if only everybody would do this, you know, and take care of themselves. So then that's when I was kind of like, I kind of want to do more schooling, like, and preferably in like a health field, and then I can stay around sports and help people and maybe elite athletes in sports. So hence why I'm going to school with like doing my nutritionist, personal training, and strength and conditioning coach. So
nice. Well, we'll be able to have you back on in a couple of years once you're, you know, if you're done playing hockey, you'll still be able to come on as the nutritionist and strength coach.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It's one of the, so let's bring it back here and, you know, explain to everyone you're playing for, is it Färjestad? Is that how you say it?
It's Färjestad.
Färjestad. Okay, I was close. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but I figured I'd butcher it once. But Division 1 over in Sweden, in Karlstad. What's that like playing in your first year over in Sweden? How is it in comparison to our North American hockey style of play, and what brought you over there specifically to Sweden? I know that Brock had that hockey camp that was coordinated. You knew the coach through that, but obviously that was a big decision to jump over there during COVID. What went into that?
Yeah, so like I said, I took a year off. I don't think my body could have handled jumping right into hockey. And at the same time, the CWHL, the Canadian Women's Hockey League, folded. So my opportunity to stay in Canada was kind of gone. So I kind of took that as, that made my decision to hang up the skates. During that year off, though, I really missed playing. I missed the team atmosphere. I missed the training. So I still had the connection. Like you said, Brock had a relationship with a camp here, and they sent me over here right after I graduated to teach a hockey school. And I still kind of maintained that relationship. I talked to the guy who ran the camps, and then also I had a former teammate from Brock on the team here as well, Alex Finlayson.
Yeah.
So I would talk to her quite often. We would FaceTime here and there. And like I ended up, what made me kind of realize I miss hockey and like I'm going to kind of go for it and go all in, was I started working like a 9-to-5 business job because that's what I took at Brock, and I thought I would love it. And I ended up like completely, I don't want to say I hated it. I'm appreciative of the opportunity I got to be able to work, but it just didn't fulfill me. It didn't get me going. It didn't excite me getting out of bed in the morning. And that's when I kind of realized I miss hockey. And like, I'm like, I worked all these years. I worked so hard for what? To just like play university and kind of give it up. But that being said, when I kind of made the decision to give it up, I didn't know there was European women's hockey, and I didn't know there's professional hockey out here until I physically flew out to Sweden to teach a hockey school. That's where I met the head coach for Färjestad. And he was like, oh, I'm the head coach of a professional women's hockey team. And I was kind of like, what? Like, what do you mean professional women's? You mean like club hockey, or what are we talking here? He's like, no, like we have a professional women's hockey league in Sweden. And I was like, oh. So then I started to like dig a little bit deeper into like European women's hockey, and there's actually professional women's hockey in quite a few countries here in Europe. So I was kind of like mind blown to find that out, because no one really talks about it in Canada. No one really, you kind of like are so focused on getting to the university level that once you're done, you're like, oh, okay, now what? And nobody's really there to guide you and help you, saying, these are your options. You can go play in Europe. You can go play here. So yeah, long story short, I missed it. I had that connection and I decided, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? Like I pursue it and it doesn't work out, or I pursue it and it doesn't work out, or it does work out and I move my life overseas. And I'm okay with that too, because it'll be an adventure. So I just pursued it, and he was still very interested in having me come out. And so we just chatted. Yeah, we just made it work. But it wasn't until the very last second that we knew it was going to work out because of COVID. So it caused a lot of like delays and like paperwork and so much uncertainty for travel and whether or not I can get into the country. And I was kind of preparing all summer for my move, but it wasn't up until like within a matter of a few days, the contract was signed. It was like, okay, your flights are booked. You're leaving in a few days. See you soon. And it all happened. So
it's crazy because, you know, playing over there is so cool. Did you ever consider playing National Women's Hockey League?
You know what? Obviously, like a few of my former teammates at Brock are playing in the National Women's Hockey League. And my second year at Brock, I went with them to like a scouting camp for the Buffalo Beef. Yeah. So I did consider it for a while, and like I had a lot of fun at the camp. We maintained contact with the head coach at the time. He checked in on us, which was nice. But like I said, when I finished at Brock, like I hadn't really taken care of myself, I guess, in a proper way. So my health just wasn't there. So I just don't think I could have kept playing at the high level. I think this, like the year off was like really beneficial for me.
Gotcha. The ice surface is significantly larger over in Sweden. Other than the bigger ice, what's the difference in the game? Is it faster? What's, you know, compared to the North American style of hockey? Less physical, I'm assuming. Less battles around in the corners.
Yeah, you got it. That's absolutely it. So, it's less physical here for sure. You don't get the big like pins or rub outs against the boards that you would get back home. It's more of like a skating skill game. And there's like, honestly, like I'll just be like at the point watching some of the girls, some of the tic-tac-toe plays they make, and just like in the back of the net, it's like unbelievable. I'm like, wow. My parents said it's like compared to Brock was like obviously a good level. It's the highest level of female hockey university in Canada, but this is just like obviously a step up. Just like the hockey IQ is a little bit sharper, the passes are a little bit crisper, and the speed is obviously a little bit higher.
What's the training like in comparison? Significantly harder?
No, honestly, Brock was hard. They worked us there. Yeah. Okay. The training is a little bit more independent here. We're not as, I guess, watched. I mean, we're all adults for the most part. We have a couple younger girls, underage girls. But we're expected, like, I mean, we're professionals. We're expected to do our workouts. We're sent our programs. So we'll have team workouts 2 or 3 times a week. But other than that, like the days that we don't get together as a team, we're expected to get our workouts done. And if we don't, it shows and we don't play. So I guess the responsibility is on us. They're not going to parade us around and make sure we're doing our workouts or chase after us. So
So Marissa, you went to Brock, you took your degree at the Goodman School of Business, Bachelor of Business Admin, specializing in marketing. Afterwards, you take that year off, you go try and work that 9-to-5 job. You talk about it on the Across the Pond podcast about the pressures we face as young adults and going into the workforce, because that's what everyone's supposed to do, right? And, you know, the logical step after university is go and find your job, go and find your career. And that's what you got to do. And I want to talk about this because this is something that so many people our age, the millennial generation, sort of Gen Z, maybe last half of it, that we have to go through. And there's a lot of pressure on us that a lot of people don't recognize. And it's so difficult, whether it's financially, whether it's finding a career. COVID doesn't help. How were you able to, obviously you went and decided to continue your dream playing hockey, but you know, can you explain a bit about what that pressure felt like? Because that's something I've experienced, but for someone as a professional now, I think a lot of people would benefit from hearing from you what you experienced and how you were able to overcome it.
I guess the biggest thing and the biggest problem that I ran into with feeling that pressure was looking at the outside, not looking at what is it that I want to do, just comparing myself to other people and looking at what other people my age were doing. Like I said, people my age back home, even like coming out of Brock, they're in serious relationships, they're getting married, they're getting engaged, they're having children. And I was like, oh, maybe I need to start settling down. Like, I mean, I've postponed my life a little bit further or a little bit more than an average person because of hockey. Like, I'm finishing my degree at 24 instead of like 22. So I already felt like I lost a few years and I was kind of behind in the workforce, and other people were getting promotions and getting these big jobs, big corporate jobs. So that was, I guess, the number one biggest problem was I was comparing myself to other people. I wasn't looking at what it is that would truly fulfill me and that I truly want to do. I was just looking, okay, this is the norm. I think I need to be doing this. I'm far behind from the norm. So I think I need to start settling down, finding my career path and start building myself in my career. So that's kind of the pressure I felt, but it also is like a mindset thing, and it's what you do with it. So biggest thing is don't compare yourself to other people. Mm-hmm. We all have our own journeys. We're all on a different path, a different time. Some people will get married at 22. I just had a cousin get married last summer and he's like 21. And I'm like, whoa. And other people will, you know, it'll happen when it happens. Like life will happen. Biggest thing is like, I want to fulfill the desires of like my heart and what I want to do and pursue my passions before I were to bring somebody else into it, let alone like have children, because I feel like there's so much life to live and there's so much to experience and do before you start that process. That's just like my opinion. So I just kind of realized, hey, this isn't what's going to fulfill me. That's great. And some people are just like meant for that. And it's what gets them out of bed every day. But what gets me up is, I guess, competition, bettering myself, getting to the hockey rink, getting on the ice, and working on that kind of stuff. So, yeah,
I think I share this very similar opinion. You know, in our 20s, you got to take the time to take care of number one, right? It sounds selfish, and maybe it is selfish, honestly, but this is the point in our lives when you can do whatever you want to do. Most of us don't have a whole lot of responsibilities, you know, other than, you know, brushing your teeth in the morning, making sure you have good hygiene. You know, other than that, you call your parents, your grandparents, you're good to go, right? I don't know. That's the pressure. I've felt it. I know a bunch of people that have gone through it. It's something I want to bring to light. So thank you for sharing your story. Okay, a little more fun note. I've got a question. You've been an ice girl for the Edmonton Oilers, the Niagara Ice Dogs, and according to your Instagram, the Leafs briefly with Brock Women's Hockey. If you had to skate on one ice surface for the rest of your life and clean snow, which organization would it be for?
Oh my God, 110% OEG. One, because they're the hometown team, and I'm like, you gotta be proud of the Oil. And two, the facility is amazing. Like, I don't know if you've had a chance to visit Rogers, but oh my goodness, it's like one of a kind. It's huge, and it's just like such high quality.
I haven't been to the Rogers place, but I definitely on my list to go when we travel across Canada for sure. I gotta see McDavid. I've got his jersey. I
I
figure
know
I
you
might as well.
haven't even seen him.
Well, yeah. I have seen him, but that's
Oh,
that's about it. hmm We're working on it. Baby steps in the process. We'll have him on for episode 97 for his number. That's
good
the
luck with
goal.
that.
Hey, hold me to it. Let's see if we can do it.
Dream big, right? Dream big.
Man, you gotta shoot for the stars, and then you land somewhere in the middle. That's all it goes. Where do you see the next 5 years from Marissa Graham going towards? I know that's a big question, but you're in your first year playing professional hockey now. Do you like it enough that you're going to continue playing? You've worked for a couple different organizations. You've been involved with the CFL. Like I said, you worked previously with the OEG. So the Eskimos with well, they're not the Eskimos anymore. The Edmonton Football Group. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, I don't think they actually decided on a name yet, but
they're Edmonton Football right now.
I also worked with the CEBL. I worked with Edmonton for a while there. I was like full time there. So yeah, I love the sport industry. Obviously, like my first ever taste of working in sports and realizing, hey, like there's jobs in sports. I never really thought about like the business side of hockey because I was always playing hockey. I didn't really think any further past that. So landing my first ever job in the sport industry was with the Edmonton Oilers. And that was my first taste of actually working for a sports team. And right up to the end of the season, like every time I got to go to work, I literally got goosebumps walking into the stadium on game days. Like I got goosebumps. I got so excited. And I was like, wow, this is just like the best feeling. And I was like, what if I could have this feeling all the time? So I was like, my goal is to like be able to get excited about work all the time. And like I said, get me out of bed in the morning, and keep me interested. So that was my first experience of really, truly loving my job. And then on top of that, it exposed me to seeing like, oh, there's like a business side of hockey. Like there's women in the office, they're in marketing, in media, in all these different positions. And I was like, wow, like this could be like a future long-term sustainable job. And it would keep me around like the game I grew up loving. Because obviously I knew one day it was going to come to an end for me playing. Mm-hmm. So yes, I love the professional sports and entertainment industry. I would love to get back into it once I'm done playing. That could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, it could be like 1 year and done here. But for right now, my focus is on me and my playing, because if you look at it this way, you only have like a short amount of time to play hockey. You have your whole entire life to work. So you don't want to just jump right into the workforce. Like I said, you have your whole entire life to work. You don't want to look back and say, oh, I wish I would have taken advantage of that small window of opportunity I had when I was younger. So that's kind of what's driving me as well. I don't want to have any regrets. And I want to be able to say, like, I truly gave everything I could, like a fair shot. Right. So in 5 years, maybe I'll still be playing, probably not. But hopefully I will definitely still be involved around sports, professional sports preferably, and obviously, hopefully around the hockey.
Yeah. Reason I ask is because, women in professional sports have become, and they're on a rise right now. I mean, you look at Megan Chayka with Stathletes, the co-founder, Kendall Coyne and Schofield, who just signed with the Blackhawks as a player development coach. So these, women are starting to get more and more involved in an industry that used to be such an old boys club. And it's amazing to see just some diversity and equality in the workforce. But did you find that it was difficult for you as a female breaking into that industry? And further to that, because, I went through the sport management program at Brock, it's an 80% male program, 75% maybe. They'll probably be mad that I say that, but that's a factor, that there's just more men interested in working in pro sport than women. But the pro sport, or the women that do so, are super engaged, super involved, want to be that next leader in an organization. Did you find that it was difficult to break into it? Was there pushback?
I wouldn't say it's difficult to break into it. Like you said, like the women who work for professional sport organizations have a similar mindset. They want to be there. They want to work hard. They want to make it to the top. And I guess there's that compete level. And so I have a personality that fits that description. So for me, for breaking in, it's just like, I'm going to go do it. And I'm going to do what I need to do to break into this organization or to get a job here or to be able to get to this job. That being said, I agree that it is growing, which is good. It's going in the right direction. But women are only getting so far, I would say, as of now. Like, you can grow and grow, you can work hard up to a certain point. Then when it comes to promotions and getting new positions and getting like management level, senior management level, executive level, that's kind of out of your control. So it's up to, I guess, the organization, how they feel about it, if being a woman is a problem or not a problem. So it's hard. It's super individual to the organization and to the culture and to the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's, well, I bring it up. So, I just realized that the Florida Marlins new general manager, can't remember her name, Jordan, if you can bring her up. She just signed as the general manager for the Marlins. So she's also, to your point now, bringing up in a management role, which is exciting. And hopefully there's more to come. It's crazy, though, to see so many men still taking up these positions. And, there's qualified women and certainly probably deserve those opportunities and positions. But like you said, it depends on the organization and how forward thinking they are and how willing they are to change up their crew. Because, I mentioned it earlier, it's an old boys club. If you played hockey for 20 years with the Detroit Red Wings, they're probably going to find you a spot in scouting with the Detroit Red Wings moving forward, right?
Yeah, that's 100%. And if I'm going to add to, like, I would say some sports are more advanced than other sports in terms of like the culture. Like I would say probably football, basketball, definitely a little bit more advanced when it comes to female involvement in sport, and hockey is definitely a little bit lagging behind. Because I think I saw a statistic, I saw it floating around on Instagram. It was like more than 98% of NHL teams have less than 1% female involvement in hockey operations. Yeah,
Whoa.
it was like, I'll find it because I saved it. I'll find it and send it to you so you can like throw it out there. It's kind of like a crazy statistic. So while it is growing, it's still like
non-existent. Yeah, non-existent at that point. 98%, whatever it is ridiculous.
And then that's in hockey operations. So it would be like development, kind of scouting, that kind of thing.
Well, hopefully that changes moving forward. Kim, last name NG. I don't want to mispronounce it. She's the Miami Marlins general manager. Jordan just found it. Shout out to that guy. He's on the ball. Did you have a favorite athlete or hockey player growing up?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, growing up in Edmonton, I feel like you had a couple options.
Definitely had a couple options. I mean, I admired like the Oilers in general, just like growing up. It's such a hockey community. It's such a like crazy fan base. Me and my dad would take me to games ever since I was young. It was just like a me and dad kind of time, which was like super nice. And I honestly just like was in awe of all of them. And I was like, the young kids, like just seeing all these professional hockey players, and you're like, I want to be them one day. And then there comes a day where you're like, oh yeah, I probably won't play in the NHL. It's probably not realistic. So then they kind of start to get the like younger girls involved with the women's national team. So they were doing like, at the time they would do touring and they would have games in different cities and then they would sign autographs. So my dad started taking me to those games and I met a bunch of the national team players. So I would probably say like Haley Wickenheiser, obviously a big name. She was somebody I always like looked up to just in terms of like work ethic and being such like an idol for young girls. So that was probably one of the bigger names growing up. that I would have like looked up to as like a hockey player or whatever. And the older I get, I would say that relationship kind of changes. You look for mentors in like a different way, not because they're like, oh, like a big name. Like you see all these little kids looking up to like Connor McDavid, just because of who he is and just how good he is at hockey. But I would say as I'm getting older, I look more for like, instead of not as like on the ice production, but I would say more of like a character traits and somebody with like integrity, I guess.
Totally. That's a good point. It's as you mature, you're looking for those different characteristics that are, fill out what an individual or what a hockey player or what a teammate is supposed to be, right? Obviously, I kind of equate it to, as you get older, you start enjoying wine more than you do the spritzers and the vodka sodas or whatever, right? You get a more of a refined taste, right?
Everything's
as you get
better.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a good point. Is there one person that stands out to you or that you have seen or looked at and try and emulate what they do as far as their qualities and characteristics?
Oof.
I'm digging deep here, Marissa. I got to figure out,
Question. These are hard questions. Like I would say everybody has their faults. So you're not going to find like that perfect person. There's definitely various people you would look up to for like certain traits. Like my mom, for example, she's literally the sweetest lady on earth. She has such a kind heart, would do anything for people she doesn't even know. So I kind of I admire that, and I aspire to have like that trait of compassion or that trait of giving that she has. Or like my dad, on the other hand, like he's such a hardworking guy. Like he built his own business like from the ground up. So I admire that, and I admire his like integrity in business. So that's what I aspire to be. I aspire to have that integrity and have that hard work in everything that I do. So it's hard to name like one specific person, because like I said, we're not perfect. We all have our faults, but I can definitely pick out different traits or characters that I aspire to like develop in my own personal self.
For sure. Let's bring it back to Brock, because that's where we met. What was that culture like at Brock University, playing for the Badgers? Did you enjoy it? What was your favorite moments, aspects? Do you like seeing me bang the drums around at basketball games, bringing it to your hockey games? Like, what did you think? Did you think I was just some nut bar going through it?
No, like you were definitely fun. I mean, it was always entertaining watching you like try and hype everyone up at the games. So like, I don't think I could ever do something like that. So good for you, really putting yourself out there. I think that carried through, and obviously like having your own podcast is really putting yourself out there. So
something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like my time at Brock. Like being a Badger, I mean, they have like a really good I guess, how can I put it? Like they hype it up, like they make it like we're Badgers, like be proud of that, like showcase that. And we have good sports teams, like we have great athletes at the school. So it was nice to be part of that community of the countless number of like amazing athletes. And in terms of like women's hockey, I mean, I've made some great relationships that I will probably have for the rest of my life. So it was a time well spent. I learned a lot about myself. I grew as a person. There was like tons of good times, but there's also the challenging times, which I think really produced a lot of character growth in me. And honestly, I can say I wouldn't be the person I am today without having gone to Brock. Like it showed me what I was made of. It pushed me to my limits. It tested me. And I honestly, without going to Brock, I wouldn't be here sitting where I am either. So I'm really thankful for my time there, and the countless amazing teammates that I've had over the years and the great experiences.
Very cool. Very cool. You know who's actually crazy, and she played on the Brock hockey team as well? Is it Niam Huey? Is that how you say your name? Niam?
Neve.
Nia, and she's now okay. First of all, plays Brock rugby, crushes women's rock rugby, women's hockey, and now she's on the national bobsleigh team. Where the hell did that come from?
Sorry, and I was like, pardon? Like, good for her.
Man, crazy athlete. Just ridiculous. Yeah, she's I told her, I said, next time, you know, you have some free time, we're gonna have to jump on, because she's ridiculous. So I is there any point now that it brings up, do you find that in women's sports you see those crazy athletes as frequently? You know, in men's sports we see like a guy like LeBron James who could probably pick up a football and dominate. He obviously dominates in basketball, whatever, but you know, I don't feel like there's those women that can dominate in every single sport. It's more of a specialization from an earlier age. Is that the case?
I would say it's not because they couldn't, and not because women couldn't excel at multiple sports. I would say it's more of like a time management kind of thing. Like, I remember there came an age, like I was playing volleyball, I was playing basketball, I was playing softball, I was playing hockey. Like I was doing all the sports and I was doing fairly well in all of them. But there comes a time where like, you got to slowly bring that down, because the higher level you get to, the more time commitment it is. And so I got to the point where it's like, okay, hockey and volleyball were my top two sports, I would say. Like I loved having both, but then there came a point where, you know, hockey started to be every single day, and plus training, plus dryland, plus now in the springtime you're playing spring hockey, plus then you get maybe a month off and then you're training all summer and you're taking clinics to try and get better for the next year. So then volleyball kind of dropped off, and it was just purely focused on hockey, because it's like, okay, if I want to get to the university level, these are some things I need to work on. These are the skills I need to hone and get better at. And I think too, like if you spread yourself too thin, you can't be great at everything. Like if you want to like get to the highest level you can at one thing, your focus has to be put there.
Yeah. So 2 questions left. One before we wrap it up. Do you have a favorite story or craziest event that's occurred in your years playing in sports? You've been at Liberty University, you've been at Brock University, you've traveled to Sweden. You got any crazy story you want to share on the Athletes podcast?
Oh, that's a good question. You're making me think here.
Well, that's kind of my job.
Back from a concussion, you're really putting a lot of pressure on my head.
Oh, here come the excuses, eh?
I don't know, but like I would have to take a little bit longer to think of like the craziest, funniest experience. Okay. But I would say like my coolest and most rewarding experience in sport that sticks out in my mind to this day is like one of the best days I've had actually wasn't of me playing. It was when I was working for the Oilers. Mm-hmm. I worked at Rexall Place, which was like an historic building, tons of cups won there. Legends literally have played in that building. Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky, like you name them. So it was actually the last season at Rexall before they were moving to Rogers Place. And the very last game at Rexall, I was able to like thankfully work it. And it was completely sold out. You could not even find like standing room tickets. Like everybody wanted to be a part. And there was this big production going on at the end. We had all the alumni back there. I think there was like 300 and something alumni. Like again, the legends, like Wayne Gretzky. Yeah, they're all lined up, and I'm like behind the scenes for all of this. I was operations, like set up, take down, making sure all the alumni are in the places they need to be for like our post-game production. And so just being around all of them and just being in such like a part of history for hockey, and especially for like the Oilers organization, the team I grew up, you know, rooting for and such a fan of. So I think that was like my coolest experience and like one of the most rewarding experiences in sports to this day, because it was so historical. I had goosebumps. Mm-hmm. Like we were all just in awe of just the atmosphere and the people and like everybody around. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
I have goosebumps just hearing you talk about it. So Marissa Graham, the way we wrap up every episode on the Athletes podcast is we ask, what your recommendation would be to the next generation of athletes. What would be your biggest piece of advice that you wish you had when you were younger going through the process?
Oh, honestly, like work hard and have fun. Like don't overthink things. I stressed myself out way too much as an athlete in my time at Brock and even younger. And I was just like so focused on not messing up and not making mistakes. So just like enjoy the ride and have fun with it and just work hard.
There we go. Nice and easy. I love it. Marissa
Yep.
Graham, thank you very much for coming on the Athletes Podcast. Good luck with the rest of your season in Sweden. I hope things with COVID are good. You know what? Screw that thing. It's the flu. We'll all battle through it. And you know what? We're just we're having fun with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Of course. We'll look forward to chatting soon. Maybe we'll get out on the ice when you're back over in North America.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.